Sir, please! I'm begging you, don't leave this house today!" Chief Silas stopped right where he was. He had just walked into the hallway. He was fixing his watch with one hand and holding his car key in the other. But now Dupe, the housemaid, was kneeling in front of him, blocking his way. She was on the cold floor tiles. Her eyes were red and her hands were clasped together. She was shaking. "What's this?" Silas asked in a quiet voice. Dupe looked up and her voice trembled. "Please, sir, don't go. Something terrible will happen if you step out today." Silas blinked, feeling confused. "What are you talking about?" "I had a dream, sir, last night," she explained. "You were wearing the same clothes you have on now. You got into your car and didn't come back. There was blood everywhere. People were shouting your name. Please don't go." Silas just stared at her. The feeling in the room suddenly changed. It felt heavy and serious. This wasn't like a silly dream that people laugh about. Dupe looked truly scared. His phone buzzed in his pocket. It was Toby again. He was already late for an important meeting with investors. This deal was huge, worth billions. "Get up," Silas said in a low voice. "This is not the time." "Please, sir," she whispered, pressing her hands to the floor. "I know I'm only a maid, but I couldn't keep quiet. If I let you go and something happens, I won't forgive myself." Just then, they heard the sound of heels on the staircase. It was Madame Mariah, Silas's wife. She came down slowly, her robe tied tightly, and her face already made up. She stopped when she saw Dupe on the floor. "What exactly is going on here?" she asked in a cold voice. "She's saying I shouldn't leave the house," Silas answered, still looking at Dupe. Mariah came down the rest of the stairs and folded her arms. "Why?" Dupe didn't move. "Ma'am, I had a dream, a very clear one. If he leaves the house today, he won't come back alive." Mariah scoffed. "This is why I told you we need to let this girl go. She has now turned into a prophet." "Mariah," Silas started to say. "No, let me talk," she interrupted. "You have an important meeting this morning. Money is involved, contracts are waiting, and now a housemaid is stopping you with nonsense dreams. You must be joking." Dupe bowed her head lower. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I had to say it." "Get out of the way," Mariah ordered. Silas raised his hand. "Wait." Mariah turned to him sharply. "Wait for what?" He was quiet, his eyes still on Dupe. There was something about her voice, something honest. She wasn't stuttering or trying to impress anyone. She looked like someone who had seen something she couldn't forget. Then Silas felt it, a quiet warning deep in his chest. No loud noise, no drama, just a strong feeling. If you step out today, you'll regret it. Silas stepped back. He walked slowly to the center table, put his car key down next to his phone, and turned away from the door. "I'm not going," he said. Dupe gasped softly, still kneeling. Mariah's mouth dropped open. "You're not what?" "I'm not going." "For God's sake, Silas!" "I said I'm not going." Silas walked into the living room and sat down. He folded his hands in front of him and stared at the marble floor as if it had answers. Mariah shook her head, unable to believe it. "You're letting this girl trick you because of one dream?" "She's not tricking me," he said quietly. "Something just doesn't feel right." Mariah made a hissing sound, turned, and marched back upstairs, muttering to herself. Dupe slowly stood up, wiped her face, and picked up a cup of water she had left on the table earlier. Her hands were still shaking. Silas sat there in silence. He wondered why his heart was beating so fast, and why the fear in Dupe's eyes felt more real than anything he had felt in years. What he didn't know was that this was just the start of everything. Chief Silas Adegonoto wasn't just a rich man. People respected him. He didn't try to get famous on social media, make a lot of noise, give loud interviews, or throw wild birthday parties. But in all the important real estate groups across Nigeria, his name meant something. He was a part owner of one of the biggest property companies in Lagos, Crestrock Real Estate Group. He owned it with his best friend and business partner of many years, Toby Onishola. Together, they had built the company from nothing. They started by making cold calls from a single laptop in a tiny office in Yaba. Now they were signing deals for land worth billions of naira in places like Banana Island and Maitama. Silas was the one who made the plans. He was the strategist. Toby was the one who was good at presentations, the showman. Silas was calm, thought carefully, and was a good listener who could understand even what was not said. Toby was charming, bold, and a risk-taker who always knew how to sell an idea or a dream. People admired their friendship and how they worked together like brothers. But only Silas knew that behind all the laughter, the fancy drinks, and every contract, they were very different people. Still, the company was doing very well. Money was coming in, and life was good. And then there was his home life. To people looking from the outside, Silas had everything. He had a beautiful wife, Mariah. She was slim, looked amazing, and always seemed to glow like she was on a magazine cover. They lived in a modern mansion in Lekki that had a gym no one ever used, expensive scented candles in every room, and enough designer shoes to fill a shop. They looked like the perfect couple. They always wore matching clothes at weddings, always smiled in their anniversary photos, and always got compliments like, "God has truly blessed you both. You're perfect together." But behind their closed doors, things were very different. Silas had married Mariah because he truly loved her. He met her at a fancy furniture store. She was there to buy pillows, and he was there for a new chair. She asked him if navy blue went well with gray, and he answered her right away. She laughed, and he asked for her phone number. Things moved quickly after that, but that love didn't last. By their second year of marriage, it was obvious that Mariah didn't care about being a companion to him. She cared about living comfortably. She didn't cook or clean. She didn't like being asked questions. She wanted her own space, and she hated housemaids. In less than a year, she had fired 6 of them, all for silly reasons. One opened the curtains too wide, another breathed too loudly while mopping, or walked like a market woman. Each time, Silas would come home to find a packed bag and learn a new maid's name. He tried to complain once. "I'm not running a school here, Mariah," she snapped back. "This is my home. If I don't like someone, they leave." So Silas stopped arguing. He focused on his work, on making money, and on keeping things peaceful. Then, one Friday afternoon, the latest maid left without even saying she was going. Silas came home from work and found his lunch cold and his clothes not folded. The living room was quiet. His wife was in the spa room sleeping. Later that evening, Mariah announced, "I found a new one. She's coming tomorrow." And that's how Dupe came into their house. She was quiet, small, with brown skin. Her hair was neatly plaited in cornrows. She wore a simple dress and flat slippers. She had no earrings and caused no drama. She greeted everyone politely and started working right away. Within hours, she had swept, mopped, washed the guest toilet, and organized the pantry without anyone telling her to. She didn't ask for anything and didn't touch anything that wasn't hers. She moved around as if she didn't want to be noticed. But Silas noticed her. Not in a bad way, but he was curious because she was different. Most housemaids watched too much TV, gossiped, or pretended to be busy. Dupe didn't do any of that. She was up before the sun rose. She ironed clothes like she had been trained at a hotel and cleaned the windows without being asked. Even Mariah, who never complimented anyone, said one night, "She's not as annoying as the last ones." That was the biggest praise Silas had ever heard his wife give. Days and weeks went by. One evening, Silas came home from work to find the house sparkling clean, his food hot, his clothes folded, and a peaceful silence in the living room. No one was shouting, there were no complaints, just calm. He looked at Dupe once and thought, "Finally, someone who actually brings peace into this house." But Silas didn't know that peace was not the reason Dupe had been sent into his life. Silas sat in the living room without saying a word. His phone was on the table, with his car keys next to it. The house was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioner. He should have been at his office by then, shaking hands, closing deals, and smiling for photographers. Instead, he sat still, staring at nothing. He felt like he had just avoided something he couldn't explain. His chest felt heavy. The image of the maid on her knees kept replaying in his mind, shaking, begging, and crying that if he went out that morning, he wouldn't come back alive. At first it sounded crazy, but now he couldn't get rid of the feeling that something truly bad had been waiting for him outside his gate. His phone lit up again. It was Toby. Silas sighed and answered it. "Guy," Toby's voice sounded sharp. "What's going on? You didn't show up. The investors are furious." "I had to cancel," Silas said quietly. "You had to cancel?" "Cancel what? Do you know what was on the table today? This deal, Silas, this deal was gold." "I know," he replied, his voice flat. "What's going on?" Toby asked again. "Talk to me." Silas hesitated. He didn't know how to explain it. He didn't understand it himself. But before he could answer, another call came in. The screen showed office secretary. He switched to the new call. "Hello, sir." Her voice was shaking. "Sean, your driver, he's been in an accident." Silas sat up straight. "What?" "Third mainland bridge. A truck lost control. It hit your car. The same Lexus you usually use. It somersaulted. He's in the hospital, unconscious. We thought you were in the car." Silas slowly lowered the phone and stared at the floor. The exact car, the exact road, the exact time he was supposed to leave. He didn't move or speak. He just sat there, replaying Dupe's warning in his head. What if he hadn't listened? What if he had ignored her? The silence in the house suddenly felt very loud. The sound of footsteps broke his thoughts. Mariah appeared from the hallway, still in her robe, holding her phone. "So, you're just sitting here all day?" she asked. Silas didn't look at her. "There was an accident," he said. She raised an eyebrow. "Okay." Sean took the car. A truck hit him. The car is gone. Her hand froze while scrolling on her phone. "And you think that means what?" "I think if I had gone out, I might not be here," he said. She scoffed. "So now you're turning this into a spiritual story. Accidents happen every day in Lagos." Silas looked at her. "You're not even shaken." "Why should I be? You're standing here, aren't you?" He stared at her face. It was calm and cold, with no sign of worry or relief. That made something change inside him. "I'm keeping her," he said. Mariah frowned. "Keeping who?" "The maid. She needs to go. She saved my life." "She caused unnecessary drama," Mariah snapped. "She has no right telling you where to go or what to do. This is my house and I won't let— This is my house too." His voice was low but firm. Mariah froze. The room went quiet. She blinked, then slowly turned and walked away. She left behind the smell of perfume and a feeling of tension. Silas sat back down, his hands pressed together. He wasn't thinking about the maid anymore. He was thinking about something deeper, something that was very wrong. He didn't have proof yet, but he could feel it. Something in his life was not what it seemed. The tense feeling in the house didn't disappear. In fact, it got stronger every day. Silas started speaking less. He watched more than he talked. He watched how Mariah barely looked at him unless she was complaining. He watched how quickly she changed the subject whenever the accident was mentioned. He watched how she avoided walking past the maid, as if the maid's presence made her feel guilty. But he didn't say anything, not yet. Instead, he started asking quiet questions. A few days after the accident, something else happened. Silas was in the dining room, looking through his tablet. Mariah had just stepped out to answer a call. Dupe came in to clear the plates. She didn't speak at first. Then, in a quiet voice, almost a whisper, she said, "Sir." Silas looked up. She bent down slightly, pretending to pick up a napkin that had fallen. "Please don't sign any documents this week," she said. He frowned. "Why?" Dupe's voice got even lower. "I had another dream. This one was clearer. I saw papers. You signed them. Not long after everything collapsed, you lost your company. Your bank accounts were frozen. There were policemen. Sir, you were handcuffed." Silas stiffened in his chair. She added, "If you sign any document this week, you will not only lose your money, you may end up in jail for something you didn't even do." Before he could ask more questions, Mariah walked back in. Dupe picked up the tray and left quietly. But her words stayed with Silas. They didn't just stay. They sank deep into his mind. Silas didn't forget her warning. 2 days later, Toby came to the house. He arrived in his usual loud way with his hair styled, smelling of fresh cologne, and a big grin on his face. "My guy," he shouted, pulling Silas in for a hug. "Man, thank God you didn't get in that car. That accident was brutal." Silas gave a small smile. "Let me guess," Toby continued. "That maid is still around, the one who gave you the prophecy that morning." Silas nodded. Toby laughed. "Man, when did you start listening to dreams?" "I don't ignore warnings anymore," Silas said calmly. Toby raised an eyebrow but didn't push it. "Well, anyway, the Dubai deal is still on. We just need your signature." Silas nodded. "Send the documents." Toby grinned. "That's what I like to hear." But later that night, when the documents arrived and Silas opened the folder, he felt a sudden tension in his body. Something wasn't right. The numbers looked wrong. The value of the land proposed was lower than what they had discussed before. The foreign bank account listed for the payout was one he didn't recognize. Then he remembered Dupe's words. "Please don't sign any documents this week. You may end up in jail for something you didn't even do." Silas didn't sign the papers. He closed the file and locked it in his drawer. He started a quiet investigation. He contacted a friend who worked in finance. What they found out was worse than he expected. Toby had been moving company money into his own private accounts overseas for over 2 years. Large amounts of money were hidden under fake project names. It was all done very carefully, like someone who never thought they would get caught. It wasn't just a betrayal, it was a crime. And Silas wasn't just being betrayed in his business. At home, things got worse. Mariah started trying everything she could to get Dupe out of the house. "She's too comfortable here," she said one morning, slamming a drawer shut. "Too quiet. I don't trust her." Silas didn't look up from what he was doing. "She's efficient." "She's disrespectful. She's disciplined," Mariah argued, though these sounded like good qualities. She folded her arms. "She's going." Silas finally looked at her. "She's staying." Mariah's voice rose. "You're choosing a maid over me?" "I'm choosing my peace," he replied. That night, Mariah locked herself in the guest room. She paced back and forth, feeling angry. Then she picked up her phone and called Toby. He answered with a tired voice. "What is it?" "I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice cracking. "I'm suffocating." "What happened now?" "He's still protecting that girl. He refused to fire her. She keeps interfering with everything. She's just a housemaid." "No, she's not," Mariah insisted. "She's a curse. That girl is watching us. She's ruining our entire plan." Toby was quiet. Mariah continued. "You told me to marry him. You said if I did, we'd find a way in, take part of the company, get access to the money. We've been planning this for how many years?" "And we're still on track," Toby tried to reassure her. "We're not," she snapped. "We've tried everything. You even sent those boys that evening to stop him. Do you remember?" "I remember." "They were armed, Toby." They waited for hours. And what happened? He changed his route again, because of her. Toby sighed. She called him, told him to take another way home. It's like she always knows. Every trap we set, he avoids it. Mariah's voice dropped. I'm tired. I hate living here. I hate pretending to be a wife. I hate sharing a bed with a man I don't love. You love me, Toby said quietly. Yes, she whispered. That's why I did all this. But it's dragging on, it's falling apart. And if something doesn't happen soon, I'm walking away. Saturday evening arrived, quiet and slow. Silas was on the balcony, looking through audit reports on his tablet. Mariah walked into the living room wearing a stylish travel dress. Her scarf was tied loosely around her braided hair, and her nails were freshly painted. She stood near the staircase, casually checking her phone. I'll be going tomorrow morning, she said. Silas didn't look up. Where to? Abeokuta. Daddy hasn't been feeling well. I need to check on him. He nodded slowly. All right. I should be back on Monday. Okay. She waited, expecting more questions, maybe a hug or a safe trip, anything. But Silas simply went back to looking at his screen. The silence made her nervous, but she smiled and walked away. Silas didn't move. He didn't show any emotion, but inside, he was already making a call. Follow her quietly. Don't lose sight of her. Don't interfere. Just send me updates. The next morning, she left the house at 7:15 a.m. Her handbag was a designer one. Her smile was soft. She kissed Silas lightly on the cheek and waved goodbye. By 9:03 a.m., the first update came. She didn't go to Abeokuta. She drove straight to Victoria Island and checked into a boutique hotel. Room 406. The name on the hotel register was Mrs. Tolu Ogunlai. Silas read the message without showing any reaction. By 9:47 a.m., the second update arrived. Toby had arrived at the hotel. He wore a cap pulled low and sunglasses, dressed in a simple black polo shirt. He didn't check in. He went straight upstairs to the same room, 406. Silas stared at the photo that came with the update. Then he sat back slowly. He felt no shock. No panic. The truth had been like a heavy beat in his chest for weeks. This was just the confirmation. They didn't come out of the room all day. By 6:20 p.m., Silas arrived at the hotel in a dark SUV. He didn't tell his driver why they were there. He didn't need to. He got out calmly and walked into the hotel. The receptionist greeted him with a smile. He didn't smile back. Room 406. He said. She hesitated. Are you? Silas took out his wallet and dropped 2 thick bundles of cash on the counter. I won't be long. She swallowed hard and handed him the spare key. He didn't rush. He didn't knock. He opened the door. And there they were. Mariah was in a white bathrobe, standing near the minibar, holding a glass of wine. Toby was shirtless on the couch, scrolling through his phone. They both looked up at the same time. Everything froze. The wine glass slipped a little in Mariah's hand. Toby stood up too quickly. Silas didn't say a word. He stepped into the room, looked at both of them, one after the other, then gently closed the door behind him. Mariah opened her mouth, but no words came out. Toby tried to smile. Guy. Silas raised one hand. Don't. Toby froze. Mariah's lip trembled. Silas, I can explain. Don't lie, Silas said quietly. Not here. She looked at him as if he were a stranger. You followed me. I stopped trusting you 2 months ago, he said, his voice low and clear. Now I know why. Toby stepped forward. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, Silas said. And worse. There was a long silence. Silas turned to Mariah. You married me for this? Her eyes burned with anger. You never saw me. You were always married to your company. And you were always married to my bank account, he replied. You and your business partner. Mariah flinched. Silas took one last look at both of them. I hope it was worth it. Then he turned, opened the door, and left. No noise, no drama, just the silence of a man who had finally seen everything he needed to see. That night he returned home and sat in his study alone. He didn't cry. He didn't break down. He made 2 calls, one to his lawyer and the other to the company accountant. "Prepare divorce papers," he told the lawyer. To the accountant, he said, "Begin the process to buy out Toby's shares." Immediately. Silas didn't eat for 2 days. The mansion was full of furniture, but empty of peace. Every polished surface seemed to mock him. Every photo on the wall reminded him of how foolish love could be when given to liars. He didn't cry. He couldn't. The pain didn't bring tears. It brought a heavy silence that wrapped around his chest and wouldn't let go. The woman he called his wife was gone. The friend he would have died for was now dead to him. And the maid, Dupe, was still there, sweeping corners, folding bed sheets, and serving him food he barely touched. The day the divorce papers came back signed, he didn't even flinch. Mariah didn't bother to show up. She sent her lawyer. "Tell him I agree to everything," she had said. "Just give me my peace." Her peace. After trying to have him harmed, after planning with the man she slept with behind his back, after sleeping beside him every night while plotting his downfall. She wanted peace. Silas signed the papers with steady hands, but the anger inside him burned fiercely. He went back to the house that night and sat alone in the dark. The chandelier was on, and the curtains were open, but the house felt like a coffin. He had everything, yet he had nothing. And that was when she walked in, Dupe. She didn't knock or tiptoe. She walked into the living room the way light enters darkness, quietly, but impossible to ignore. "I'm leaving tomorrow," she said, her voice soft but firm. Silas looked up from the couch, his throat tight. "Why?" he asked. She didn't blink. "My assignment here is over." Silas stared at her. Of all the people in his life, she was the one who hadn't lied. She was the one who saw the traps and spoke up. She was the one who risked her job, her comfort, and maybe even her life for him. "You don't have to go," he said, and this time his voice cracked a little. "You're the only person who hasn't hurt me." "I know," she said gently. "But I wasn't sent to stay. I was sent to save." Silas stood up slowly and walked over to her. His heart felt heavy. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. So she spoke again. "If you had signed that document," she said quietly, "you would have lost your company, your name, your freedom. You would have gone to jail while the people who planned your death walked free and kissed each other over breakfast." His jaw clenched. She took a deep breath. "But you didn't sign. You stayed. You listened. That means you're ready." "Ready for what?" "To start again," she said. "This time with your eyes open." They looked at each other. Then Dupe did something strange. She smiled. It wasn't the kind of smile that says goodbye, but the kind that says, "You'll be fine." "Live right," she said, backing towards the door. "Trust slowly, love carefully, watch everyone." She turned, opened the door, and just like that, she was gone. Silas stood in that doorway for a long time. The wind brushed past him like a whisper. He didn't chase her. He didn't cry. But deep inside, something was breaking and healing at the same time. He walked back into the living room, picked up the framed photo of him and Mariah on their wedding day, stared at it for 5 seconds, then smashed it against the floor. The glass shattered, just like the lie he had been living. He bent down, picked up a piece of broken glass, and looked at his own reflection in it, cut, bruised, but awake. And for the first time in a long time, he smiled. Not because everything was fine, but because the storm was finally over, and he had survived it. It took a whole year of silence, of starting over, of rebuilding a life that had been built on betrayal. Silas put all his energy into Crestrock, his company. He changed the company from the inside out, cleaned out all the dishonesty, and replaced every person who had once been loyal to Toby. He opened a new branch in Abuja, hired young, talented people, refused to take bribes, and walked away from suspicious deals. He became the kind of man he wished he had been earlier. And with time, the emotional scars began to fade. He started going on walks again. He started enjoying his food. He even started smiling without having to force it. And when love came to him again, it didn't come loudly. It came gently, through a woman he met at a charity auction. She didn't care about his last name or how much money he had. She cared about books, children, and other quiet things. He didn't rush into it. He didn't announce it to the world. But when he held her hand one evening under the stars, he knew that this time it was real. Somewhere across town, a small black car pulled up in front of a duplex. The house had cracked pillars and a tense feeling around it. Dupe stepped out. She was wearing a plain gown and flat shoes. Her hair was neatly packed, and her face was calm. She rang the bell. A tired-looking woman opened the door. Her eyes were swollen from crying for days. The woman looked confused. "Are you the lawyer?" "No," Dupe said. "I'm the housemaid." Inside that home, a husband was about to throw away his marriage because of a secretary who had wrapped him around her finger. The wife knew about it. The husband denied it. The marriage was dying. But Dupe had arrived. And wherever she went, lies would be exposed and the truth would come out.